Imagine sitting across a really nice polished mahogany desk.
Oh, that sounds intense already.
Right. You are in the final round of a high-stakes job interview. Or, maybe you are pitching a crucial idea to a big investor.
Yeah, the pressure's totally on.
Exactly. And you have prepared for this exact moment for months. I mean, you have devoured the industry vocabulary. You've memorized all those complex grammar structures.
You're ready.
You know exactly what you want to convey. So the interviewer leans in, and they ask you a question about how you handle high-pressure situations.
Okay, a classic interview question.
Right. You take a breath. You want to say that you stay completely calm, that you never let the pressure get to you.
Make yourself sound like a professional.
Yes. So you reach into your vast mental dictionary, grab what you think is the perfect sophisticated idiom, and you say it with total confidence.
Oh boy, I feel a butt coming here.
But as the words leave your mouth, the interviewer's eyes just widen slightly. Their smile completely freezes. Yeah. A suffocating silence descends on the room. You don't realize it yet, but because you translated a phrase directly from your native language, you didn't just tell them you stay calm.
What did you tell them?
You just told them, I am a cold-blooded reptile.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's not good.
Not at all.
And, the physical reaction to that moment is almost entirely involuntary. I mean, your amygdala fires, cortisol just floods your system.
That panic sets in.
Completely. And the very areas of your brain responsible for language production suddenly lock up. It is a profoundly visceral experience.
You literally freeze.
Right. You're sitting there with this massive vocabulary locked inside your head, but the bridge to actually delivering it has it's collapsed.
And the tragic part is, the person sitting across from you knows you are smart.
Yeah.
You know you are smart. But the language didn't just fail. It betrayed you.
It really did.
And that exact friction, the chasm between having a huge vocabulary and actually knowing how to deploy it naturally, that is the entire mission of our deep dive today.
It's such an important topic for anyone learning a language.
It really is. So we are unpacking a stack of notes and strategies today. We're looking at how to master natural word choice in spoken English.
And keep it simple, right?
Exactly. Because the core premise we are exploring today for you, our listener, is that fluency has very little to do with the sheer volume of words you have memorized.
Right. It's not about knowing the whole dictionary.
No, it's almost entirely about knowing which specific words to pull out and exactly when to use them.
It is the dividing line between just, linguistic knowledge and actual communicative competence.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, because you can ace every written vocabulary test in the world. But if you have ever felt that sharp sting of using a word that was technically, grammatically flawless, yet somehow completely wrong for the moment.
Oh, I've been there.
Right? We all have. You know exactly what we're talking about. So our goal today is to dissect the mechanics of natural speech. We are going to look at how words are stored and retrieved, the social dynamics of it, and the specific traps that force intelligent learners to sound, rigid or completely awkward.
I love that. So let's start with the foundational paradox our sources bring up. They call it the appropriate word problem.
Okay, let's get into it.
So the obvious question a frustrated learner might ask is, if a word is in the dictionary and I use it grammatically correctly, why isn't it the right word?
It's a fair question.
Right.
Yeah.
The material defines an appropriate word simply as a word that fits the situation naturally. But, that feels a bit circular. Like, what does fitting naturally actually look like in real life?
Well, the problem really begins with how we are taught to view language in a traditional classroom setting.
Like with textbooks and exams.
Exactly. We are implicitly trained to treat language like a rigid math formula.
Right.
We are taught that concept A equals word B.
Right.
So if you are hungry, you use the word hungry. If
Yeah.
you are tired, you use the word tired.
Seems logical enough.
It does. But human communication is not a math equation. It's this highly sensitive, constantly shifting social ecosystem.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, an appropriate word carries baggage. It carries historical weight, emotional resonance, and sociocultural implications.
So it's not just a definition.
No, not at all. When a word fits naturally, it effectively becomes invisible. The listener's brain does not process the word itself. It just seamlessly absorbs the meaning.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that. So if it's natural, you don't even notice the word.
Exactly. But when you use a technically correct word that lacks the proper social weight, you force the listener's brain to stop, examine the word, and figure out why it feels so out of place.
Okay, let's unpack this with an analogy. Think of your vocabulary as a massive wardrobe.
Okay, well, that's us.
You've accumulated hundreds of different garments over the years. Now, a tuxedo is an objectively excellent piece of clothing, right?
Greek fancy.
It is tailored, it is expensive, it is flawless. But if you walk onto a sandy beach in the middle of July wearing a tuxedo, you're going to look completely ridiculous.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you get some strange looks.
The tuxedo isn't the problem. The environment is the problem. You wouldn't wear it just because it's the nicest thing in your closet.
Right, right.
And words seem to operate on the exact same principle. The context entirely dictates the dress code of the sentence.
That is spot on. It is really a matter of sociolinguistic register.
Register.
Yeah, linguists use the term register to describe the level of formality and the specific vocabulary we adopt depending on who we are speaking to and where we are.
Okay, so talking to a boss versus talking to a best friend.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And the reason the tuxedo at the beach scenario makes people so deeply uncomfortable is because communication is fundamentally an act of social negotiation.
Meaning we are always trying to figure each other out.
Basically, every time you speak, you are sending subtle signals to the listener about the nature of your relationship. If you are sitting in a loud, casual coffee shop with a friend, the register is intimate or casual. If you suddenly inject a highly academic Latin-based word into that environment, you are violating the unwritten social contract of that space.
You are essentially showing up to their relaxed barbecue and demanding they judge your ballroom dancing technique.
Haha, exactly. That's exactly what it feels like.
Wow.
And, the history of the English language makes this trap particularly dangerous. English is famously a hybrid language.
Right, it borrows from everywhere.
Yeah. Because of the Norman conquest in 1066, English absorbed a massive amount of French and Latin vocabulary.
Which was the language of the royals.
Yes. The aristocracy, the law, the church. Meanwhile, the common people continued speaking Anglo-Saxon.
Yeah.
So this historical collision left us with a layered vocabulary. Today, we still have short, simple Anglo-Saxon words for everyday life. Words like start, buy, or help.
Very common words.
Right. And then we have longer Latin-based words for the exact same concepts, like commence, purchase, assist.
Oh, I see.
And learners often memorize the Latin-based words because they look more impressive on a test.
Yeah, they sound smarter.
They do. But when they use purchase instead of buy while grabbing a cup of tea or coffee, they are inadvertently signaling a level of aristocratic distance.
Wow.
They are changing the social dynamics of the interaction without even meaning to.
That is a brilliant historical context. It perfectly explains why using the right word makes the message clearer. It isn't just about comprehension, it is about social friction.
Exactly. Social friction.
When you match your vocabulary to the environment, like using simple words at the tea stall and Latin-based words in a legal office, you are signaling social awareness.
Yes, you are telling the listener, I understand where we are, I understand our relationship, and we are aligned.
And that alignment puts the listener at ease.
It really does.
And ironically, when the listener is at ease, your own confidence as a speaker skyrockets.
Right.
You stop second-guessing every syllable because the social interaction is just flowing naturally.
Precisely. And this is where the cognitive load on the listener comes into play.
Cognitive load.
Yeah.
Like how hard the brain has to work.
Right. Every time we hear a sentence, our brains are processing the literal meaning and the social meaning at the same time.
Okay, that makes sense.
When the register matches the environment, the cognitive load is very low. The brain processes the information effortlessly.
Like wearing sandals to the beach.
Right. But when you drop commence into a sentence about watching a cricket match, the listener's brain has to momentarily pause.
It trips them up.
Yeah. It has to ask, why did they use that word?
Mm-hmm.
Are they joking? Are they being sarcastic? Are they trying to act superior?
Oh, wow.
You are forcing the listener to do unnecessary mental work. Natural word choice simply minimizes the listener's cognitive load.
But, knowing that we need to adapt to the context leads us right into a massive psychological trap that our sources highlight.
Oh, definitely.
It is a trap that almost every language learner falls into, regardless of their native language. Even when people know they're in a casual setting, they almost universally reach for the most complicated, multisyllabic tuxedo words they possess.
They really do.
They just can't help themselves.
It is the complexity illusion, and it is rooted entirely in the psychology of insecurity.
Insecurity. Really?
Yeah, think about it. When you are operating in a second language, you are acutely aware of your own
Oh,
limitations.
for sure. You feel like a child sometimes.
Exactly. You feel vulnerable, and you often feel like your intelligence is being underestimated because you cannot express yourself with the same nuance you have in your native tongue.
Right.
So this creates a powerful subconscious drive to prove your competence. The logical leap the brain makes is, if I use difficult, complex words, I will sound highly educated, fluent, and intelligent.
Oh, that makes so much sense. The notes give a highly relatable example of this.
Yeah.
So a learner might be talking about a long day at work,
Yeah.
right? And instead of just saying they are tired, they construct the sentence, I am extremely exhausted.
Yeah, which is a mouthful.
Right. Now, grammatically, that is a flawless sentence. The vocabulary is accurate, but the sources point out that simply saying, I'm really tired, is infinitely more natural for an everyday conversation.
Totally.
And I have to stop here and challenge this idea a bit.
Okay, let's hear it.
If I am preparing for, like, the IELTS exam, or if I'm sitting in a boardroom trying to convince a CEO to fund my business, I'm really tired, or that's a bad idea, isn't going to cut it, is it?
Right.
Doesn't the pursuit of high-level, complex vocabulary serve a very real purpose?
Yeah.
If I worked hard to memorize a word like exhausted or deleterious, shouldn't I deploy them to establish my authority? Why should I hide a sophisticated vocabulary just to sound simple?
That is a crucial distinction to make. We really have to separate precision from complexity.
Okay, precision versus complexity.
Yes. In a boardroom, you absolutely need precision. If a business strategy is flawed, saying that's a bad idea is not precise enough.
Right.
You might need to say that model is unsustainable. Now, unsustainable is precise. It specifically addresses the flaw in the business mechanics.
That makes sense.
However, saying that proposition is deleterious to our long-term fiscal viability is complexity for the sake of complexity.
It just sounds like you swallowed a dictionary.
Exactly. The illusion is believing that multisyllabic words automatically grant authority. If you look at the communication strategies of the most effective leaders, writers, and speakers in the English language, you will find the exact opposite is true.
You mean like looking at the readability scores of famous speeches?
Yes. Linguists frequently analyze presidential speeches, famous literature, highly persuasive business presentations, using metrics like the Flesch-Kincaid readability test.
Right.
Winston Churchill's wartime speeches, which literally rallied an entire nation, are dominated by short, punchy Anglo-Saxon words.
Wow, really?
Yeah. Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address is shockingly simple in its vocabulary. And think about Steve Jobs when he introduced the first iPhone.
Oh, that was huge.
One of the most successful corporate presentations in history. He spoke at a middle school reading level.
Wait, a middle school level? Are you serious?
I'm serious. He didn't say, we have engineered a revolutionary multi-touch interface capable of synthesizing telecommunications and media consumption.
Uh-huh. No one would have bought it.
Right. He said, it's an iPod, a phone, and an internet communicator. Are you getting it?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
He used simplicity as a weapon. He prioritized immediate understanding over trying to sound like a computer engineer.
Exactly. Native speakers prioritize rhythm, cadence, and clear imagery over showing off their vocabulary. Natural speech flows. It has a specific musicality to it.
Yeah.
When you substitute really tired with extremely exhausted in a casual chat with a friend, you disrupt that musicality. You throw a wrench into the rhythm.
Right, it stops the flow.
And when a learner insists on using overly formal, complex words to sound smart, they are actually building a wall. They are signaling that they care more about how they are perceived than they do about connecting with the person in front of them.
Oh, that's deep.
The listener doesn't feel impressed. They feel like they are being lectured.
So the true hallmark of advanced fluency isn't being a walking thesaurus. It is the ability to communicate complex ideas without creating friction.
Exactly. No friction.
That is incredibly liberating for anyone currently drowning in vocabulary lists. But it also presents a completely new, practical problem.
That's that.
If the goal is clear, contextual, simple communication, how do we actually acquire that? Because I can say with absolute certainty that staring at a traditional English dictionary from A to Z will never teach you the social dress code of a word.
Oh, never.
A dictionary gives you the literal definition, but it is completely silent on the real-world usage.
Which points to the fundamental flaw in traditional language learning. I mean, the vast majority of learners are taught to memorize isolated lists of words.
Yes. The endless lists.
We use flashcards, we take multiple choice vocabulary quizzes, we use those spaced repetition apps that show us a word and demand the translation.
But I used to do that all the time.
Most people do. But the neurological problem with this method is that a word on a flashcard exists in an absolute vacuum.
The sources are actually highly critical of this approach. They argue that words absolutely must be learned through conversations, stories, and real-world exposure rather than through lists.
Yes.
They advocate for a method that sounds deceptively easy. Listening to native speakers through movies, unscripted conversations to notice which words are actually deployed in real time.
It's all about context.
The specific quote from the material is, "Good listening improves natural speaking."
It's so true.
Now, on the surface, watch movies to learn English sounds like the oldest, most generic advice in the book.
Sure, people say it all the time.
But the sources suggest a very specific type of active listening. You aren't just sitting back and absorbing the plot. You are actively treating the media as a training ground for context. You are watching how a character speaks to their spouse in the kitchen versus how they speak to the police officer who pulls them over on the street. You are tracking the register.
And the reason this active observation is so critical comes down to the neurobiology of how our brains actually store and retrieve memories.
Okay, let's get into the brain science.
Yeah, we have to look at the difference between semantic memory and episodic memory.
Semantic and episodic. Got it.
When you learn a word from a flashcard, your brain tries to store it as semantic memory. Just a raw, abstract fact, like word A equals meaning B.
Okay.
The hippocampus processes this, but because there is no emotional or environmental context, the neural pathway created is incredibly fragile.
Oh,
It is like throwing a single piece of paper into a massive filing cabinet without a folder or a label.
it is in there somewhere, but good luck finding it when you actually need it.
Exactly. But when you learn a word in the context of a story, say watching a dramatic argument in a film or listening to a hilarious story on a YouTube video, your brain engages episodic memory.
Ah, an episode. Like a scene.
Right. It doesn't just record the word. It records the environment, the tone of voice, the facial expression, the emotional tension of the scene. It attaches neurological tags to the vocabulary.
Like metadata on a digital photograph.
Oh, I love that comparison.
You know, a photo doesn't just store the image, it stores the time, the date, the GPS coordinates, the camera settings.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. The brain is recording contextual metadata. In linguistics, this is related to a theory called lexical priming, developed by Michael Hoey.
Lexical priming.
The theory suggests that every time we encounter a word in the wild, our brain subconsciously takes notes on the company that word keeps.
The company it keeps.
Yeah. We notice what other words frequently appear next to it, what grammatical structures it prefers, and what social situations it appears in.
Wow.
So over time, you aren't just learning the definition, you are learning the word's behavioral profile.
That is so cool.
So later, when you are standing in a casual coffee shop, your brain doesn't have to search through an alphabetical list of 10,000 flashcards. It simply queries the metadata for casual, relaxed environment and instantly retrieves the simple, natural words that have been primed for that exact scenario.
That makes the process of vocabulary retrieval almost automatic. By exposing yourself to natural conversations, you are effectively downloading the vocabulary and its specific dress code simultaneously.
Yes.
You're wiring the context directly into the word.
That's the goal.
And there's always the but. Even if a learner does this, even if they abandon the flashcards, consume thousands of hours of conversational media, and build up a solid intuition for context,
Right.
our notes point out a massive, highly dangerous cognitive trap that the brain will still try to set. And it happens the moment you actually open your mouth to speak.
I know exactly what you're going to say.
The translation trap.
Yes. The direct translation trap. This is arguably the most difficult habit to break, primarily because it feels like the most logical, efficient way to operate when you are acquiring a new language.
It just feels natural to translate.
It does. The sequence seems entirely rational. You formulate a thought in your native language, you run those words through your internal dictionary, you translate them directly into English, and then you speak the English words.
And it results in spectacular misfires.
Oh, absolutely.
Our sources provide a classic, highly entertaining example of direct translation failing completely.
Let's hear it.
Imagine a scenario where someone is physically warm and wants to tell their friend they need some fresh air. In their native language, the common idiom for being hot might translate literally to the word boiling.
Okay, I can see where this is going.
So they run the process, they feel warm, they think of their native idiom, they translate it directly, and they announce in English, "I'm boiling."
Uh-huh. Oh, dear.
Right. Now, as an English speaker, if someone looks at me and says, "I'm boiling," they have just painted a terrifying picture of a human being cooking in a giant pot.
Literally bubbling away.
Yes. They meant to say, "I'm feeling hot," but the direct translation created a bizarre, comical image.
It perfectly highlights the fallacy of one-to-one mapping. The translation trap assumes that all languages are essentially just different sets of labels for the exact same underlying reality.
Like it's just swapping out the words.
Right. It assumes that an idiom in Hindi or Japanese has a mathematically equivalent idiom in English, or that a Spanish grammatical structure can simply be swapped with English words, but languages do not work that way.
No, they definitely don't.
Language is a reflection of culture, geography, history, and a specific way of organizing the world.
You cannot just swap the code.
No, because you are dealing with entirely different operating systems. Idioms, cultural references, metaphors, and specific types of exaggeration, like your boiling example, belong to the cultural worldview, not just the dictionary.
That makes total sense.
When you try to force the worldview of your native language through the vocabulary of English, the result is the comedy of errors.
It's funny, but it can be really embarrassing for the learner.
Very much so. But beyond the awkward phrasing, the translation trap creates a massive neurological bottleneck.
A bottleneck.
Yes. When you formulate a thought in your native language, the neural pathways in your brain associated with that language light up. Broca's area, which handles speech production, prepares the syntax for your native tongue.
Okay, I'm following.
If you then force your brain to hit the brakes, switch to English, find the equivalent words, reorder the syntax, and then send the signal to your mouth, you are introducing a massive cognitive delay.
It is that agonizing millisecond pause where you can practically see the gears grinding in the speaker's head.
Yes, you can see them thinking.
The conversation loses its rhythm completely. The sources give a very clear directive on how to solve this. Think in English whenever possible.
Which is easier said than done.
Exactly. I read that, and my immediate reaction is, sure, and while I'm at it, I'll just teach myself quantum physics over the weekend.
Uh-huh.
I mean, telling someone who is struggling with basic sentence structure to simply think in a foreign language sounds absurd. It sounds like telling a teenager learning to drive to just think like a Formula One champion.
It does sound intimidating.
It feels like an impossible demand for anyone who isn't already highly advanced.
Well, it sounds like an insurmountable leap if you assume thinking in English means having complex, abstract internal monologues about philosophy or politics.
Right, like narrating a novel in your head.
But that is not what the strategy entails. Bypassing the native language middleman begins at a remarkably microscopic level.
Microscopic? Like how?
It is about building direct neural pathways between your physical perception of the world and the English vocabulary, entirely leaving your native language out of the loop.
Okay, so how do we practically bypass that middleman? How do we fire the native language from the process?
You start with concrete physical reality. When you walk into your kitchen and look at an apple, your automatic reflex is to think of the word for apple in your native language.
Right.
You have to train your brain to stop that reflex. You look at the object and you deliberately think the English word apple.
Oh, just the word.
Yes, you are tying the English vocabulary directly to the visual stimulus of the physical object.
You are cutting out the translation step completely, so visual of an apple directly equals the English word apple.
Exactly. And once you master static objects, you move to motor linguistic connections.
Motor linguistic.
Yeah.
So actions.
Yes, tying English directly to physical actions. As you walk down the street, you think to yourself, I am walking. When you touch a hot cup of tea, you think the tea is hot.
Okay, that's really simple.
You are training your brain's semantic memory to bypass the translation filter entirely. And as those tiny direct pathways get stronger, you gradually string them together into slightly more complex thoughts. It requires immense mental discipline in the beginning, but it is the only way to eventually achieve that frictionless flow because you are no longer running two linguistic operating systems simultaneously.
You are just experiencing the world directly in English.
Exactly.
That reframes the concept beautifully. It isn't about writing a novel in your head. It is about labeling your immediate physical reality.
Simple labels to start.
Right. But let's bring this down to the absolute ground level, to the most high-stakes moment a learner faces.
Okay.
Let's say you have done the work. You are actively listening for context. You are prioritizing simple, natural words, and you've trained yourself to start thinking in English.
You're doing everything right.
You are out in the real world, engaged in a live conversation. The rhythm is good, but then it happens.
Uh-oh.
The cortisol spikes. Your mind goes completely, utterly blank.
The dreaded brain fade.
You lose the word, you lose your train of thought, and the silence starts stretching out. What is the actual tactical protocol for that moment?
That is the moment that causes the most profound anxiety for language learners. The silence feels deafening, and the instinct is to panic, apologize profusely, or just shut down.
Just run away.
Yeah. But the material we are reviewing provides a highly sophisticated strategy for exactly this scenario. The use of survival phrases.
Survival phrases. I like the sound of that.
Linguists call them conversational repair mechanisms.
Okay, what do they do?
These are specific, pre-memorized phrases that serve a dual purpose. They buy your brain the milliseconds it needs to retrieve the lost word, and they manage the social interaction so the conversation doesn't awkwardly crash.
The sources list some incredibly practical examples. If you hit a wall and cannot find the vocabulary, you can simply ask the listener, what's the best word for this?
That's a great one.
If you realize you have started a sentence that is too complex and you are digging yourself into a grammatical hole, you can stop and say, let me put it another way.
Such a smooth transition.
Right. If the person you're talking to anticipates your struggle and supplies the word for you, you don't need to feel defeated. You validate them by saying, that's exactly what I mean.
It keeps the flow going.
Or you can clearly state your intention. I'm trying to express my idea clearly. Give me a second.
Yes.
But, and I have to push back hard on this concept because the psychology of being in that hot seat is brutal.
It is.
If the entire goal of learning a language is to appear competent, fluent, and capable, isn't pausing a conversation to admit, I don't know the word for this, deeply embarrassing?
I can see why it feels that way.
Doesn't explicitly asking for help shatter the illusion of fluency that you've worked so hard to build? Doesn't make you look foolish?
This requires a massive reframing of what conversational competence actually is.
Okay, reframe it for me.
The fear you are describing is rooted in the false belief that fluency means perfection. That a fluent speaker never pauses, never forgets a word, and delivers every sentence with the flawless precision of a news anchor reading a teleprompter.
Right, like a robot.
But if you actually observe native speakers in natural environments, you realize they do not speak like that at all.
We really don't, do we?
Not at all. Native speakers constantly lose their train of thought. They forget common words, they stumble over their syntax, they backtrack, and they use filler words.
All the time.
The defining characteristic of a highly competent communicator is not the absence of mistakes. It is the grace with which they manage those mistakes.
That is a really valid point. I use filler words like, you know, or I mean, or just constantly in my native language.
Exactly.
I will literally snap my fingers trying to remember the name of a movie I watched yesterday. I don't feel like I've lost my fluency. I just feel like I'm having a normal human brain fade.
And when a second language learner uses a repair phrase like, let me put it another way, they are actually demonstrating a very high level of pragmatic competence.
Pragmatic competence.
Yes, they are showing the listener that they are fully engaged in the interaction. Instead of panicking and breaking eye contact, they are remaining present.
That makes a lot of sense.
Furthermore, asking what's the best word for this is an act of social grace. It invites the listener into the process of communication.
It makes it a team effort.
Yes. It changes the dynamic from a performance, where you are being judged, into a collaboration, where you are working together to find meaning.
I love that.
It signals emotional intelligence, self-awareness, and confidence. A speaker who is secure enough to admit they lost a word is infinitely more engaging than a speaker who awkwardly freezes or tries to bluff their way through a broken sentence.
That completely flips the script. Using a survival phrase isn't a confession of failure. It is a tactical maneuver.
A tactical maneuver, exactly.
You are taking control of the breakdown and steering the conversation safely to the side of the road, rather than just letting the car crash into a wall.
What a great analogy.
You are showing that you are in command of the interaction, even if you momentarily lost command of the vocabulary. It turns a moment of potential humiliation into a moment of human connection.
It deeply humanizes the interaction. When you show vulnerability and invite help, the vast majority of people will naturally lean in to assist you.
People want to help.
They do. It builds empathy. And it brings us full circle to the core philosophy that underpins all of these strategies. The ultimate goal of language is connection, not perfection.
This has been a genuinely fascinating exploration today. We started with that terrifying universal experience of freezing up in a high-stakes moment, trapped behind a massive vocabulary that we couldn't access.
The reptile moment,
Aha, the reptile moment,
Yeah.
exactly. And we've charted a completely different course.
a much healthier course.
We are moving away from the rigid mathematical approach of memorizing flashcards in a vacuum. We are abandoning the tuxedo words, those overly complex formal terms that learners use as a shield, which ultimately just build barriers between people.
Keep the tuxedo in the closet unless you're at a wedding.
Exactly. And we are actively dismantling the translation trap, learning to bypass the native language and attach English directly to the physical world to avoid sounding like we are boiling.
And in place of those old habits, we are embracing the power of context and simplicity.
Simplicity is powerful.
It is. We are recognizing that the right word is the word that minimizes cognitive load and respects the social register of the environment.
Right.
We are using active, mindful listening to download the metadata of vocabulary. And most importantly, we are learning to use survival phrases to navigate the inevitable messy moments of real-time communication with grace.
If there's one central thesis from the materials we synthesized today for you, our listener, it is this. You don't need perfect words to communicate effectively.
That is the big takeaway.
The mandate is to express your ideas clearly and confidently. The data and the linguistics make it incredibly clear that consistency, rhythm, and clarity are vastly more important than grammatical perfection or a towering vocabulary.
If you are showing up, actively reading the context, prioritizing simple and clear language, and managing your mistakes collaboratively, you are communicating at a remarkably high level.
You really are.
You are already miles ahead of the learner who is paralyzed by the fear of not using a complex word correctly.
You are taking the pressure off. You don't need to wear the tuxedo every time you step out the front door. For the vast majority of human interactions, a well-worn, comfortable pair of jeans is exactly what the moment requires.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
Which leaves me with a final, slightly provocative thought for you to carry into your conversations this week.
Let's hear it.
We spend thousands of hours agonizing over achieving a flawless, academic, native-like vocabulary. We want to sound invincible.
We do.
But if you strip away the intense pressure of perfection, if you accept the pauses, the simple words, and the honest, collaborative survival phrases, could it be that your unique, slightly imperfect English is actually the most authentic, relatable, and deeply human way you could possibly communicate?
That is a brilliant question to sit with and a fundamental shift in how we view the entire language journey.
Until next time, keep diving deep.